My name is Felix Dapare Dakora. I come from Ghana, and I'm currently a professor at the Tshwane University of Technology. I hold bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees in agriculture, and I have been working in South Africa since 1993. After my doctoral training in Australia, when I went and did some postdoc in California, Davis, University of California, Davis, and came back to the continent. Well, I work in the area of biological nitrogen fixation, and that's more because I realized when I was a small boy that the crops my parents grew, the yields were always very low. And that's because the soils in Africa are inherently very low in mineral nutrients. That's because Africa is the oldest continent on the planet, and all the soils are highly leached. They are leached of their nutrients. And one way to improve crop yields is to apply chemical fertilizers. But coming from a rural background, my parents didn't have enough money to buy fertilizers. So as I studied agriculture at the bachelor's degree level, I took interest in looking at processes, systems that will improve soil health so that yields on farmers' fields can be increased. And one of them is biological nitrogen fixation. When the legumes form root nodules with soil bacteria, they create their own factories for making nitrogen fertilizers using those bacteria. And so then is the key reason why legumes are generally very rich in protein, whether it's in the leaves or in the grain that we eat. But also after the grain harvest, there's a lot of biofertilizer in the crop residue. So that when you use it as fertilizer, you can increase the yields of non-leguminous crops. And so this, for me, was the turning point in how to make a difference in the yields of farmers' crops, especially within Africa, where, as you know, the majority of the people are poor. We have the poorest number of people on the planet. So any technology that can address this is very important to me. Secondly, as I was saying, we can use chemical fertilizers. But as you know, in Europe, it's a problem. There's too much fertilizer in your soils, and especially nitrogen, and that leads, of course, to global warming. And so instead of going the route of chemical fertilizers, it's better to use biological technology, such as nitrogen fixation in legumes. And so this, for me, drew my attention. And also, of course, as I get older, I realize that legumes are the best food you can eat on this planet. They are more nutritious, and they give you less of the problems that we incur when we eat cereal crops. In terms of impact, we have identified a number of varieties of cowpea, which the farmers in Ghana are growing. And I always go back to Ghana because I did some collaborative work over there. Even though I'm based in South Africa, I still do a lot of work over there. And I've trained a lot of students who are from Ghana, in addition to other countries in Africa. And so essentially then we have identified cowpea, high yielding, high nitrogen fixing, high biomass, and high protein content in these legumes. And those have been released to farmers. As I said, they are widely grown in the savanna areas of Ghana. And we have tested the same in South Africa on farmers' fields, and some of the farmers, especially the black farmers who also grow cowpea here, have taken keen interest in the material that we brought from Ghana to evaluate in South Africa. So that's the first point. The second point is that we've also worked on groundnuts. And some of the groundnut that we worked on, they came from acres that some were bred in Ghana. We took them from there, evaluated them in Ghana, and evaluated them here in South Africa. And there too, we have identified one of the groundnut varieties is called Sarinat 2. Sarinat 2 is a groundnut variety that we've identified to be very high in nitrogen fixation, better plant growth. It also produces abundant grain compared to the recommended variety, which is called Chinese. The recommended variety in Ghana is called Chinese, and this Sarinat can yield 2.8 times more than the recommended variety. So that is one great thing about it. The second point is that in doing our research on nitrogen fixation, there's also a bonus. The tools we use to measure nitrogen fixation also allow us to be able to measure drought tolerance. So we kill two birds with one stone. We test for nitrogen fixation, we test for drought tolerance. And of course, I'm sure you appreciate that with climate change, it's fantastic whatever you do to always ensure that you identify material that can be used to combat drought. And so this Sarinat 2 is not only high yield and high nitrogen fixing, it's also very drought tolerant, which is a plus for the farmers, because anytime that the rains are poor, they at least can still expect to get some good yield from growing Sarinat. We also have identified three other groundnut varieties that are equally very promising, and they have been recommended for further testing in different agroecological zones, different parts of the country, to see whether we can still get one or two of them as well to be released as a variety to farmers to grow. And going further back to the cowpea that I talked about, we have also identified cowpea materials that are short duration, 48 days from planting to harvest. So it means that when you have only 1.5 months of rainfall, a farmer in cropping that one, the short duration cowpea, can still get very good harvest for food security. And so that too, we think is very important going forward in terms of nutritional and food and nutritional security. Well, I've had 15 years of doing research fully funded by the South African government through a research chair. So I have a research chair. This is the 15th year. It's also the last year of the chair. So the money will come handy in supporting further research as I travel to different places, in the continent. And so that is God sent, if I can put it that way. But the price is also important. It's important that I use the prize to promote agriculture. I should be able to not just brag and boast about the fact that I won that prize, but to let people know that that prize exists, to reward people who are very interested in raising agriculture in the world, and they can actually advertise the prize. So on the one hand, it's a win-win situation. You feel proud you won the prize, but you also promote the prize to other scientists in agriculture so that they can also apply and try to get it. More we all get turned on by the prize, the more good work we can do, and the better food security and nutritional security will be. So it's a very important prize. It makes me feel good that the hard work has been rewarded. When you are a teacher, before you retire, you want to make sure that you train the future generation of young scientists to replace you when you go on retire. So the South African research chair that I've had, and prior to that, I also got some grants from various foundations like Batnai Foundation in Minnesota, the Gates Foundation in Seattle. That has allowed me to train a large number of students. up to 2019, with my previous work and the research chair, I've been able to train 76 postgraduate students, masters and doctorate. And I've trained 12 or 13 postdocs. So that too for me is important, that I have contributed to the future generation of agricultural scientists for Africa and for the rest of the world.